Well, you already know what it is. It's another episode of eThought Conversations where we talk to people who are entertaining, who are educational, who are engaging, as always, and who are making a difference in this world. As always, I got a difference maker in the room today.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you're going to enjoy this conversation. He's a dynamic leader, he's an educator, he's an automotive expert, and he's written a
Mm.
book called The For Real Deal Playbook for Car Buyers. But listen, and he's been on televised newscasts, both local and nationally, and he's honored as one of the most influential automotive sales professionals in the Tri County area. Well, I want to say area, and he's also the co-host of the Lifeline podcast. He's my friend, my brother. I put on a jacket because I knew he's a fancy dresser as well. I put on a jacket because I knew
Me
how he
too
was coming.
much.
It's
What's
my
up,
friend.
E?
What's up? It's my friend, my brother. It's Linsberg Pepway Jr.
Yes, there's a third. What's up, my guy? You all right?
Man, I am doing excellent. Thank you for asking. Let me fix that. And I want to get first to, Linsberg.
Lindsberg, yes, sir.
Yeah, tell me about Linsberg. Have you ever ran into another Linsberg?
I haven't ran personally into another Lindsberg. I am a junior, as you have heard. My
Okay,
father was senior, and
okay.
growing up in Detroit in the '80s, I had a lot of fights because of my name. But as I matured, the name grew on me.
Okay.
My grandmother got it from Charles Lindbergh, who flew
Oh,
over.
makes
Yes,
sense. Okay.
yeah. So I don't understand. She was in Mobile, Alabama, and she thought Lindbergh was a great name.
And then so there's a senior
There's a
and a
senior, there's a
junior.
junior, and my oldest son, who will be 20 years old this year. He is
Yeah.
the third.
And I failed to mention that most importantly, he is an honorable husband and the father of three fabulous young men,
Yes,
and
sir.
a coach and a teacher. And so I don't want to. I definitely want to recognize them because I admire the way you handle your
Oh, I
family.
appreciate it.
Yeah,
E, we've been knowing each other, what, over 20 some years?
probably.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And hopefully we haven't aged too much. I think you look great, and I can't do the beard like that, but
Yeah.
I, I do what I do.
Yes, sir. You're looking
Listen, I
good.
want to get right into this, man. You
Mhm.
are, an educator. I think when I met you, you were in education, a successful principal,
Yes.
and let's start there with education. What makes a good educator?
Woo. Education is a mission. You can't go into education thinking you're just going to teach kids. You have to be able to impact, because kids can care less about how much you know until they know how much you care. And the
Mm,
reason why I got in education, I grew up in Detroit, on the east side of Detroit, borderline between 7 Mile and Woodward. And my mom always sent me to private schools.
mm,
I was the only boy out of four girls, and my father died when I was 2 years old. So
wow.
she didn't want to wrestle or fight with the streets. So she put me in parochial Catholic schools.
Okay.
So when I went to these schools, I was the minority. I never saw anybody of color as a principal, as a teacher, as a coach, anything. So when I ended up transferring from Oakland University to Alabama State, I became an educator because I wanted to come back to the city of Detroit and give somebody an opportunity to look up to me. I mean, not in a more arrogant way, but just give
Right.
be an example.
Wow. And your students, you run into your students now, and they say, "Mr. Petway," what they
Yeah,
say?
yeah. They call me coach. I will always be Coach Petway. Um,
Okay. Because you
I
coach
st-
what?
I coached when I started at Winers Academy back in 2000. I was the PE and health teacher,
Okay.
and then I coached football at Oak Park, Berkeley, U of D, and I was athletic director. So some of my students that I started teaching, they're 35 years old.
You say how?
Wow.
When I'm only
Um,
37.
So I was able to make an impact on the east side of Detroit because I knew what it felt not to have that example. All of my male examples came from people who did not look like me, but they were males. They were my football coaches at Bishop
Wow.
Gallagher High School. So I just wanted to make an impact, make a change, and I think I had a slight impact on some young people.
So, what's one of the most successful stories that you say, man? I walked in my purpose from one of your students or something like that?
Mm. Young man, he transferred from another high school because he had got into some trouble, and
Hmm.
I won't say any names.
Hmm.
And he came in, and Pastor Winans actually brought him to me because I was the principal then at the high school, and he had a special case because he had got into some legal issues. He
Okay.
didn't want to be there because he was coming from a well-known big high school. So I just had a conversation with him, and I said, "Look, I want you to be successful. I want you to graduate." He was behind on almost 30 credits,
Wow.
and in addition to the classes that he had to take, he had to come into my office after school and
Hmm.
sit there and do his recovery.
Hmm.
But when he graduated and after everything was done, he came up and gave me a bear hug and
Wow.
said, "Thank you, Mr. Petway." So I
Wow.
think that was one of the greatest accomplishments right there. Because he said, "I never thought after getting in trouble that I would be able to graduate, but you believed in me." So I think that's one of the best stories I have. I have several, but that's one of the
Hmm.
ones that when you asked that question, it just came to the forefront.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's always heartwarming. Like, man, I made a difference. You know.
Yes, definitely. Because I knew what
So,
it was to grow up without a father,
okay.
not having that example.
Hmm.
My grandfather was in my life, but he was a bishop in the church, and he was
Okay.
stern and
Okay.
and focused on that. So just having that one-on-one man to talk to, I didn't have that. So I was always trying to be that for my students.
So staying there for a while, for a moment,
Mhm.
what, how do we reach the young people? What was your method? What was your style? What did you find was most successful?
To be cliche, I kept it for real. I just reached them where they were. And I always came back to the kids, even when I became principal. I always showed them the purpose of the reason why. I think you can reach kids no matter if it's 95, 2005, or 2025, because things have changed. But
Hmm.
kids always need discipline and they always need
Mm,
love. They
mm.
always need discipline and they always need love. So if you can show the child that and you have a genuine interest in what they're doing or what they want to become, I think they could be reached.
Wow, that's phenomenal. So what do you think the educational system is doing well, and then where there's some challenges looking back now? Because your
Hmm.
kids went through the system, and what insight did that give you? Because you know it a little more.
Yes. So I've been out the game probably since 2017. But one of the things that I found was missing at the high school level was life skills, the
Mm,
ability to know what credit is, really to prepare them for what's next. Because I found out a lot of kids weren't going to college, they were going into skilled trades. But when they left the high school, a lot of the things that they were taught in the classrooms really didn't make that big of difference to what they were going through on a day-to-day basis. Now, I say that from an urban perspective. I'm a resident of Canton, and
mm-hmm.
in the suburban district, it's a little different. We have
Okay.
dual enrollment, we have all these other different programs, but sometimes where I was, which was in the city of Detroit, you have other challenges. So you have to kind of meet those people where they are. I think the biggest gap was just getting kids prepared for life, and not pushing the necessary necessity that you have to go to college. It's an option, but if you don't, there are other options.
Mm. You talked about, and then we're going to move on here because the whole podcast is about you making a career transformation.
Oh man.
So we're going to get there. But,
Yes.
I think we're helping some parents along the way.
Hmm.
You
Sure.
said love and discipline.
Love and
Does it
discipline.
come in that order, or how do you marry the two?
Depends on the scenario. The Bible says, "Train up a child in the way that he should go, and when he's old, he won't depart from
Hmm.
it." It also says, "If you spare the rod, you spoil the child." So
Okay.
I believe love and discipline go hand in hand. Um, I can love you and discipline you, and I can discipline you and love you. I think there has to be a balance. And I have three sons, and I didn't have an example of what it was to be a father.
Hmm.
And sometimes I think that I went too hard in the paint because I know what I saw and know what I didn't want them to become. However, when other men, especially, look from the outside in and say, "You're doing a good job with those boys," because you're training them up to be men. Um,
Hmm.
I think there should be a balance of love, but I also know that I have to get them ready for what it takes to go out into the world as a black man.
Yes.
So that discipline and love, it just has to be a balance.
Okay.
Sometimes it's here, sometimes it's here, just depending on the scenario.
See, this is good. This is good. So you said you went too hard in the paint. I like practical examples because you're gonna help
Hmm.
somebody else. Give me an example, like, because you were a coach, so you
Hmm.
probably tried to coach them as well, and did
Yes.
those lines get blurred between being a
Oh
father and a
man.
coach?
Oh, especially
Come on, help
being
me.
being being a former athlete and a
Yes.
pretty good athlete. I was inducted to my high school's Hall of Fame for football. I went
Wow.
away to college to play football. Um, so I had to step away from my middle son, Lemuel
Mhm.
Sean Pettway.
Okay.
I had to step away from him as his trainer because I saw the potential and I was pouring into him, but it wasn't, it was just spilling over.
Okay.
So I found out when I hired someone, the same things that I was saying and doing, it was well received.
Okay.
Now, I was able to accept that because I was once Coach Petway and I heard that same thing before. Um, Me and my wife, we have different parenting styles.
Yes.
Um, I need to know where my sons are. I want to know and make sure they're safe. Um, if they're out and now they're older, they're coming
Uh-huh.
home at 12, 1 o'clock. I'm not sleeping until they get there.
Yes. Yes.
I still pray,
Right.
still cover them with the blood and put the
Uh-huh.
oil on the car, but it's just different. I mean,
It
I just
is.
need to know because I understand what can happen.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, no, example of going too hard on the paint. They have chores. I make sure that they're done. If they're not done, I'm always on them. My wife was like, "Man, you're just so rigid," and I said, "I'm just training them."
And we love your wife.
You're so rigid. But I said, you know what it is, E? That's the way I
What?
was raised.
Okay.
So it became a part of who I am. So if I have to take on these large tasks, it's not a challenge because I have kept some discipline and some consistency.
What skill set did you have to learn to apply that?
Oh
What
man.
what was the epiphany at? Like, man.
So being the only boy, and there's a 12-year difference between me and my youngest sister.
Hmm.
So I was at the crib by myself. So I cut the grass, I cleaned, I took the trash out, shoveled the
Hmm.
snow. I did all these responsibilities because my mom said, "I'm getting you ready, so you can, be able to
Hmm.
take care of yourself." So when I went away to college, I looked at some of my friends and their skill sets, just be able to handle, to budget, different things like that. They didn't have those things. They were going to college to learn them. So those are things that I already had. So just that rigidness, that consistency, keeping your room clean.
Hmm.
If you see something on the steps, pick it up. Don't walk over it. If you take something down, put it back. Simple stuff.
Being a boy, huh? Right. You gotta pick that up. The trash ain't gonna take itself
It ain't
out.
gonna take itself out. But I see the development. My oldest son, Linsberg the third, he went away to Oakland University
Hmm.
for his first year, and went to visit him. Room was nice and neat.
Hmm.
Came back home, everything was packed up. He did very well this first year. So I'm like, oh man, he was listening.
He got that.
He got that.
So how did you, we gonna move on, but this is good. How did
Mhm.
you balance the suburban and the urban so that they can be well rounded? Was that a challenge?
Mm. That was quite a challenge. Sometimes I take them back to where it started,
Ooh.
so they can see it. I take them back to
And their
the
response was
wow.
like,
Yeah. I think I love Detroit, and
yes.
born and raised in Detroit. I was stand on the east side, 7 Mile and Marks, and the straw was a bullet came through the roof.
Mm.
I think my two sons were maybe 4 and 5, and my wife said we got to move. Um, and then just trying to just ride their bikes through the neighborhood, being chased by pit bulls and different things. So she
Nothing like
said
a
we
pit.
got to go.
He said, yeah.
Um, so I take them back. I give them that balance. I try to put other men in front of them that I respect that could give them life lessons. And sometimes I think, and it is what it is. We're out here. We're in a different environment. I said, man, they don't have that. Some of them don't have that true dog in them
Yeah, yeah.
because of the environment. And you
Hmm.
know how that can be.
Hmm.
Yeah,
You got to know how to survive in the city. You got to know how to
definitely.
move.
How to move, how to navigate.
You got to put your head on a swivel,
Just
which
little
is
lessons. I told them
yeah,
when you go somewhere, never sit with your back towards the door, never, leave your drink, all the things that we were taught, when we were
yeah.
coming up.
Isn't it crazy though, being from the D, when you go out of town, you still on the swivel, you
Still on a
see things,
swivel, baby.
you see things, you be like, hey y'all, come on over here. And
Come
they
on
be like,
over here, man.
what? What?
We
You be
about to
like,
leave. What's
yeah,
going on? Yeah,
right.
I ain't even
Let's
fooling with
go.
this. Yeah.
Right. That's amazing. Um, so what's your take on like uh uh well, I want to do this question first. You said you were raised by your mom. What did she give us some advice for single mothers who fathers may not be in their children's lives?
Mm. If I can give one thing, definitely have a relationship with God.
Mm, yeah.
Putting God first and creating that balance and that structure of who he is and creating a relationship with him was one of the things that kept me.
Hmm.
Um, every morning, my mom would drop me off at the bus stop and we would recite the 23rd Psalms.
Nice.
That transition to the day before my sons leave, we
Yeah.
pray and we quote 23rd Psalm, and then they have affirmation that they say. But that's what you need first and foremost. Then just be consistent with them. You can't waver.
Mm,
I heard TD Jakes teach and preach that there needs to be husband and wife, father and mother for balance in the household. And I
hmm.
see that because sometimes my wife can, you know,
Right. She's a
she can
nurturer.
sway. She's the nurturer,
Hmm.
and I'm the more disciplined one. And
Hmm.
I'll be like, "Well, where you at?" Well, mom said, "Oh, say you knew to ask mom for that.
You're right.
You ain't asked me because you know what I would have told you."
I just look at her like, okay.
Right. But
Right.
and I say this with all due respect, you can't be their friend.
Okay.
It's gonna come a time, when you become their mentor.
Hmm.
And as you know, with your daughters, and they
Hmm.
have matured and married, so there's different levels.
Yep.
You're a parent, you're disciplined, you're on them, and then when it transitions, when they get to college, you kind of tell them what to do or suggest, and then when
Hmm.
they become adults, you say, well, if I was you, I would, but you
That's
still
good.
have to make that decision on your own. So I think just being consistent with them and not being that friend,
Hmm.
that's gonna come. That's
Yep.
what I'm learning. It's gonna come.
I love that. Let me get messy for a minute. In the Sanders situation, Dion and Shador, what's your take on that as an athlete, as a coach, as a father,
I see very, very,
as a black man?
as a black man, I see a couple of different scenarios, right?
Okay.
And I'm glad you said black man, because as a black man, you always got to know there's a game within the game,
Hmm.
unfortunately. Um, I understand, and I like Dion. I respect him. I always kind of looked up to him. I understand the mindset of him wanting his children to be successful, putting work in them, and he did a great job.
Hmm.
Um, but one thing I would have did different if that was Lemuel Langston, I would have told him once you go in there, yes sir, no sir, this is what I plan to do. Be a little more compliable,
Hmm.
because you got to understand that $1 billion organization called the NFL is controlled by billionaires, and they can control the narrative. And once you learn how life works, you kind of got to get in where you fit in. And I think he'll do well now
Hmm.
if he truly puts in the work. But Dion was 1-on-1, so he could do that in the 80s. He was 1-on-1. Um, Shador is a great athlete, good athlete, but he wasn't Dion. So
Hmm.
being that brash and that bold um, kind of backfired, but I like him standing on business because he is an asset.
Hmm.
He is going to bring fans to the stands. But the NFL don't want to hear that because, we love ourselves. We know we could do what we do by ourselves because we are the shield. And
Yeah.
that shield is powerful. You know, I had
Powerful.
opportunity to look at it and play for a minute. That shield is powerful, bro.
Yeah.
And you know, you all over the world, and the billionaires is different than a millionaire.
Obviously. Obviously. And yeah, shout out to Coach Prime and Shador. We certainly wish
Yes,
them the
sir.
best. And
Yes,
Shiloh.
sir.
You
And
know,
Shiloh,
Coach Prime does
definitely.
an excellent, phenomenal
Excellent job,
job.
man. Yes,
And
he's
you know,
one of
just for
my
y'all, yeah,
inspirational.
absolutely, absolutely. So again, you were a successful educator, principal,
Hmm.
and now you a successful retail car executive. How did that happen? What happened?
Well, you know, I always tell this story in black and white. And if
All
I
right.
tell it in black and white, it doesn't get green or messy.
Okay. Gray, huh?
Great.
All right, let's go.
So I received a call for a meeting back in 2015,
Hmm.
and I wasn't able to go to that meeting because I was scheduled for a hip replacement.
Okay.
So if you don't know, I have two new hips from playing football, one in 15 and one in 19. So I couldn't go to the meeting, and there was no response from the person that texted me. So I had the surgery, and my admin assistant came to the meeting, came to the hospital and asked, what was the meeting about? And she said, they closed your school. I
Hmm.
said, what? She started crying. She said, yeah, they closed your school.
Hmm.
Now I've been in this organization for 15 years,
Hmm.
and out the blue, they closed the school. So that was a Wednesday. Friday, I talked to the um, management company and said, yeah, we're going in a different direction.
Hmm.
Just like that, close the school. So yeah, I was out of a job with a
Hmm.
fresh hip replacement and looking for work the next 2 to 3 weeks, walking in on a cane, on a walker. And a young lady who had just became a principal gave me an opportunity at Law Academy in DPS. So I went there for a year,
Hmm.
and it was like June. I was breaking up a fight. Kid took a swing at me, jumped out the way, and tore my meniscus.
Oh.
So July 16, I had to have another surgery. Um, Went and told that particular principal what happened. She said, "Oh, that's too bad, and unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to bring you back next year." I'm like, "Huh?"
Wow.
So 2 years in a row, two surgeries, two job losses. So I'm questioning God, like what's going on, you know?
Hmm.
So then I start interviewing for other districts, going about 10 different interviews. Keep in mind, I'm a black male. I have two masters, one in sports administration, one in education administration. I'm a reward school principal, and nobody's hiring me.
Mm.
So I go back to my roots, which is Coach Pettway. I start personal training. And personal training is like the eighth month of being unemployed. And the young man I was training said, "You ever thought about selling cars?" I'm like, "No, I ain't no selling no cars. No." He said, "Well, I think you should try it."
Have you sold anything in your life other than yourself?
I used to sell clothes.
Okay.
Back in 89, 90, I worked at Van Dyke's in Northland.
Okay.
So that's where I
Oh
originated
wow.
my style from,
Yeah,
fooling
come
with
on, Van Dyke's classic.
Van
Yeah.
Dyke's.
Yeah. A staple in this area.
Yes.
Okay.
So he said you should think about it. So I thought about it, and I was on my last bridge card load. Wife was holding it
Wow.
down.
Wow.
As many nights praying, crying, asking God what's
Wow.
up. And as a man being the priest, provider, and protector, I was in a low point.
Wow.
I was in a very, very low point because I was hurt. I was hurt from the company treating me the way they did, and that
Hmm.
company had a different um, hold on my life. And I
Hmm.
won't, so I was hurt. I was upset, and I said, what the heck? Let me go." So I went. I interviewed. That was February 28th, 2017. Interview went well. I said, "Let me pray about it." Prayed about it, and I started March 1st, 2017. First month sold 16 cars. Next month
Okay,
sold
hold
20
on. You're
cars.
going too fast. What is the average for a new salesman selling a car? First
New
month.
salesman coming in with no experience. Probably that first month, you got to learn a lot.
Okay.
And the educator in me, the lifelong learner in me, I just took it upon myself to train myself because there was no onboarding, there was no training.
Okay.
They just gave me a desk and said, "Go at it."
Right.
And I'll talk about that later because I'm doing something about that now,
Okay.
uh, 8 years later. So it's maybe about 1 to 10 cars, depending on the
Okay.
navigation. But I utilize my foundation, my Coach Pettway, my swag, if you want to say. So I went on social media. I started posting my socks and my shirt and tie every day. And I would say it's a great day to get into a new car. Come see me, Feldman Chevrolet, for your for real deal. What's a for real deal? It's putting you in a car you desire at a payment you're comfortable with. So I created a brand. I rebranded a brand because for real started in college, but people would just get on because they wanted to see what color socks or what tie.
Mm,
And then I just made sure that everybody that knew me knew what I was doing. And
mm-hmm.
here we are 8 years later, awards, National Automotive Dealers Association speaker, automotive news speaker, really just trusting God. And just to talk about that, your skill set from one
Yeah.
industry should be able to transfer to the next industry if it's focused on helping people,
Yeah.
listening to the person in front of you. And I had a great opportunity of that teaching kindergarten all the way up to 12th grade.
People don't understand sales is mostly listening,
It's
and then
relational. Yeah.
overcoming the objective. You got to
Yes,
build a
definitely.
relationship and rapport, and
Hmm.
then listen to them and overcome that objective. So you say, where did that concept come from? Like, did you emulate someone else, or was it a God download? You like, I'm gonna do my socks, I'm gonna do my shirt.
That was a God thing. I was just something. I was sitting there and I look because all you know how we do with your shirts, your
No, we know how
shirt and
you
tie.
do.
You know how
don't
we
don't
do.
don't group me. Yeah.
Your socks have to complement your tie
Okay.
colors, but not the pattern. So I was just looking down and I just did it. And the first time I did it, I got some likes. I said,
Hmm.
okay, let me try this. And that's when For Real Automotive is born. And that's my company.
So you began to talk about the courage, the
Hmm.
confidence, the fear, the
Hmm.
insecurities of that transition into a new industry. How did you overcome that? Because I know people are like, "What you doing, Linsberg?"
Right, right. Well, first of all, there was a need. I needed a job. And
Okay.
then I took it upon. I've always been like a person who wanted his own business. Back in college, I played football, but also threw parties and For Real Productions. And we used to throw parties and we were very
Okay.
successful at it. So I'm always been that person that tried to bring in my own money.
Hmm.
So when I sat there, I thought about that and that entrepreneurial bug, it just bit me again.
Hmm.
So I did something very unique. I created a dealership within a dealership.
Wow.
So I worked for Feldman Chevrolet of Livonia, of
Hmm.
the Feldman Automotive umbrella, but
Hmm.
I created For Real Automotive, which I have my own website. I do my own marketing, television, radio, sponsorships, because you can buy a car from anybody. So you have to separate yourself.
Mm.
So I created a brand in which integrity, transparency, and kind of the guy next door. So whatever I can tell you to put you in a better position, that was my goal. Unfortunately, car sales men or women have a nasty, bad image.
Hmm. Hmm. Right.
So my goal was to destroy that, and I did that, deal by deal. Fear was there because selling is very much a faith test. Because if you don't sell anything, you don't make any money.
Hmm.
So each and every day I would get up, I get to work, pray, sell my word, pray, look on my word, and then just have faith. And just I went in, just jumped into the deep end of the pool with just marketing. I'm just putting myself out there and making sure that when that customer sat in front of me, I treated you how I wanted to be treated. And it was hard at first because the industry is a money making industry.
Hmm.
So sometimes I was sent out there with numbers that didn't make sense to me,
Hmm.
because I knew Eric couldn't afford that because he told me what he wanted. So I would
Hmm.
go to bat for you, educate you on your credit, with the credit minute. So I trained myself on certain things so I could have conversations with my clients.
What's your position on tariffs?
To be determined. I know that it's going to affect my industry.
Hmm.
Right now, there's a 63-day supply of automotive vehicles here on lots.
Okay.
Come day 64, 67, 80, yeah, it's going to
Okay.
be a little more expensive.
Okay.
And here's the thing, and this is just a little bit of insider information.
Hmm.
The MSRP might not go up, but manufacturers might pull off rebates and incentives. So
Oh.
those rebates and incentives, that 1,500, that 2 grand, that's
Oh.
discounting the car, right?
Okay.
So
Makes
technically
sense.
you're getting a discount and the manufacturer's losing money. But if they pull back on those incentives and rebates, then they can cushion themselves. I think GM said they're looking at maybe a $1.4 billion loss.
Hmm.
It's a
Hmm.
lot of money. So
Yeah, I just heard that yesterday.
yeah, it's going to be
Uh,
interesting.
yeah, it's going to be definitely interesting. You talked about you didn't have a, blueprint or onboarding. You said you're coming up with a process now.
Yeah, so I was sat at a desk and with some login information, and that's it. And day two, sat down, take these tests. I'm like, and coming from education, we got professional development, we
Hmm.
got onboarding. Before school starts, we're there 2 weeks learning
Right.
things. So I'm
Preparing.
like, this don't make any sense to me.
Uh-huh.
So I just took it upon myself to go get some keys, went through each car, right?
Hmm.
Googled and YouTube things so I can have product knowledge.
Hmm.
So 8 years later, based upon everything that I've done, I have matured into an automotive mentor or quote unquote expert based upon what I've done. Even writing the book was just a playbook for car buyers. So if you
Hmm.
buy that book and you take that book, you read it, you go through it, you'll sit down at a dealership confident, being able to speak the language and understand what's happening so you're not taken advantage of. And that was frowned upon. Why are you
Hmm.
doing this to our industry? I mean, at one time, somebody
Hmm.
sent the email to my general manager about the content that I was making on
Wow.
social media,
Okay.
thinking, putting me down, say he doesn't know what he's talking about, but I was just giving people information. So 8 years later, I'm in the process of creating a sales mentorship program
Hmm.
where I'll be mentoring salespeople. We working it out if it's going to be one-on-one, group wise,
Hmm.
and it's a 6-week program, and I'm putting together everything you need to know from social media to the customer analysis program to building relationships with the receptionist, building, just everything you need to know, everything that I've done to create the success that I've had and share with others and do it. I'm an educator at heart.
Yeah.
I'm a teacher. So I want to make sure that I can have an impact on the industry. Um, and I think it's going to be great.
I love that. I think I hear again, that all, skills are transferable. If
Hmm.
you can sell to your students, you can sell to your clients. If I heard you correctly, there is uh, uh, your success you attributed it to your life skills, your overcoming
Hmm.
objections. What else you want to add to your elements of success?
Faith in God. I'm,
Faith
I'm gonna
in
keep it a
God,
buck. Yeah, faith in God,
straight up.
trusting in God. Because that transition period, it was a dark time, and I believe that God had something for me because of a word that was spoken over my life years ago. And sometimes people don't understand that you got to go through the process, and sometimes the process has pain, but it would
Ooh,
definitely get you to the promise. And everybody wants it now. They look at, I have almost 120,000 followers, which isn't a lot in these days, but I grew that organically by
yeah.
just putting in the work. So you got to work, got to put in some hard work, and having that faith in God relationship with Him, bro,
So we walk by faith and not by sight. Looking
not
back
by sight.
now, you can say, "Oh man, am I still a
Yeah,
supporter?"
yeah.
But while
Now
you
I
on,
can, hey, now I can tell Him thank you.
yeah. But when I'm on that journey, it's like, where is
What?
the next step?
Right, right. I'm like, how could you do this to me? But
Yeah.
now I can say thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you because, um, again, Bishop Jakes once said, you cannot be mad at the person that did whatever they did to push you into your purpose. Yeah,
Ooh. And
yeah.
that push ain't comfortable.
No, it hurt. I
Yeah.
cried.
Many a nights and days. But here we are.
Here we
Man, this
are.
has been absolutely phenomenal. I'm gonna come back
Yes.
to you for some closing remarks. But before we get there, I do this thing called, it's eThought conversation. So I do this thing called first thoughts. So
Okay.
I'm gonna give you this and that, and you just tell me which one is your first thought.
Okay.
Football or basketball?
Football.
Why?
Because I play football. Football is a sport that builds character. It questions your intestinal fortitude, and it takes you to another place that you couldn't think you could get there. But once you get there, you're proud of. And the teamwork. It's a big team of football. Yeah, football.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Dogs. Mornings or evenings?
Um, what are we talking about? Workouts? Mornings.
Anything. You like to work out in the morning. You do
Yeah.
work out in the morning. Now
Yeah.
that's a part of your brand for real,
Yeah.
because you up
5
at
a.m.
5 a.m.
Yeah. Every
clocking
morning,
it
4
in.
a.m. Clocking
Yeah,
it in. I
yeah.
think I like mornings because joy comes in the morning, and each morning you get a new opportunity, new hope, and new loaded benefits from God
What
in
do
the
you
morning.
get out of your workouts?
I get focus, I get direction. Um, it used to be a stress relief when I was in education. I
Mm.
would have to go work out after work because of those kids and then go home. But now it sets the tone of my day. Right now, me and my training partners, we on this 31-day challenge, taking it up a notch. It's my joke that me and Father Time fight every morning. So
Hey, he's undefeated, but you can put up a good fight.
I'm putting up a good fight so far.
Ebook or physical book?
Mm, I'm gonna keep it for real ebook. Physical books. I had enough of that in college and masters. I need the information. Let me get it now. I might even Audible.
Say maybe no. Movies or TV series?
Movies. I like
Laugh or
movies. Go on.
movie?
Yeah,
Okay.
I like
Laugh or
that.
cry?
Laugh,
Laugh. Okay.
laugh, laugh. But there's purpose in your tears. Oh,
Mm.
that preach.
That's the next book. That's the next book. Purpose in your tears. You talk or text?
I like to do both, but I think if I had to lean to one, I text.
Text.
I
Okay.
like to text. But see, when you text, you can miss the message.
Yeah. You
Yeah,
can miss the tone of the
yeah.
message
You
for
miss the
sure.
tone of the message. Yeah.
Let me do some music. Boys and Men or New Edition?
Do addition all day.
Wine is a commission.
Winans. Question is.
Okay. Okay. Mary or the Clark sisters?
Ooh. Clark sisters.
Clark
I'm old
sisters.
school. Yeah,
All
yeah.
right. Brandy or Monica?
Brandy.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, man. Well, thank you for that. I want you to give a closing message and then tell us where
Okay.
people can find you on all forms of social media, the For
Mhm.
Real brand, and all of that good stuff.
If I had to close this out, I would say continue to walk in your purpose. Even though you don't know where it's leading you, just continue to walk in it because eventually you'll get there, but it has to be purposeful. And another thing I would say, a great mentor once told me, try to become 1% better every day,
Mm,
just 1%. In 20 days, you'll be 20% better. 50 days, you'll be 50% better. Don't try to do too much, just 1% better every day.
man,
And
that's
I think that would be my closing remarks.
hey, that's phenomenal. That's I don't need to leave it e-thought because you just did. I want to
Okay.
welcome my man. Thank you, man. We have to do this again. This has
Yes,
absolutely
it was a
been
pleasure.
great, man. And
Mhm.
continue doing what you're doing. We can follow you where?
Linsberg for real. TikTok, Instagram, Linsberg for real. It's all Linsberg for real. Stay focused, stay
Linsberg.
faithful, stay for real.
And Linsberg is
BERG.
Linsberg,
Yes,
the
sir.
number 4, and the word real.
Real.
Linsberg for real on all forms of social media. And again, support him. His book is on there and everything that he's doing. If
Yes,
you want
sir.
to get a car, they can find you
At Thelman Chevrolet, or call me at 313-995-2025 for your for real deal.
for real deal. And I've experienced that. I brought somebody to him and I was like, hey,
Yes.
they credit ain't the best. He's like, hey, I got
Yes.
this.
I got you there. You helped me out. That was my first year, wasn't it?
Yeah,
17? Yeah.
yeah,
E
yeah.
deal.
And you gave them the for real
Real deal.
deal. Thank you again, man. Like, comment, share on here. We thank you again for another episode of eThought Conversations. And we'll see you next time on eThought Conversations. Be blessed.